When we get stuck on a boss battle, our instinct is to grind to a higher level. But what if we can't do that? In this video, I'm testing each gym leader in red, blue and yellow to see if they can be beaten by a single Pokemon straight out of the wild. No grinding, no items in battle, and the solo sweep has to be 100% consistent. I won't spend too much time on Brock. Squirtle can beat him as soon as it learns Bubble at level 8. There are 2 mandatory fights before arriving in Pewter City, your rival and a bug catcher. They give enough XP to reach level 7, and then you're one wild encounter away from reaching level 8. I don't consider this grinding. In yellow version, Butterfree is the best sweeper, but it needs a little grinding to get there and no rare candies are available yet, so I can't count it. Otherwise, once Caterpie evolves and Butterfree learns Confusion, the fight is already decided. So for Brock, I can only give a badge to Squirtle. I know Brock has been talked about a lot after all these years, but I promise that there will be some smart catches throughout the video that not many players know about. Misty's Starmie is a very strong Pokemon to face at this point in the game. At its level, nothing can outspeed it. I thought Pikachu in yellow would be a decent solo sweeper, but it's paralysis support at best. I also gave the available grass types a try: Bellsprout, Oddish, Bulbasaur and Paras. Oddish ended up being the best one in red and yellow, while Bellsprout was in blue, due to version exclusivity. They simply spam their strongest stab move to win, but they need to hit level 21 for an evolution to pull off a guaranteed solo sweep. I am not going to play around my rules by grinding early available options, so I delay Misty's fight to obtain a level 31 Dugtrio in Diglett's Cave. It is very overleveled, but also the most efficient Pokemon to solo sweep her. Dig has 100 base power in Gen 1, so Dugtrio can easily 2-hit KO Starmie, while surviving a critical hit Bubble Beam with decent DVs. For a truly guaranteed solo sweep with low DVs, Dugtrio needs to be level 33, which is quickly reached by giving it the 2 rare candies the player has at this point. While Weepinbell and Gloom are excellent options against Misty, Dugtrio requires basically 0 effort to catch and use, making it the best Pokemon to solo sweep Misty across all 3 versions. Surge has one of the worst located gyms in Pokemon history. How do you run an electric type gym next to a cave full of Diglett and Dugtrio? They are a well-known answer to Surge, but how low can their level be to solo sweep? Well, in red and blue, it's lower than you think. I thought I was going to need a Dugtrio, but Surge's team already falls apart when facing a level 15 Diglett with Dig. For a 100% safe sweep, we need a Diglett with at least 51 speed to act before Voltorb and prevent getting KO'd by a combo of Sonic Boom and Pikachu's critical quick attack. Once those 2 are defeated, the fight is already won. Raichu's attacks are all electric type, so it cannot touch Diglett. Yellow is very different though. Surge tries to beat us at our own game, with only his Raichu. I have to admit, it's actually a pretty scary one. Its moves hit very hard at this point in the game. Dugtrio is actually necessary to have here, but it can be the lowest level possible. It doesn't matter if you grind a Diglett to level 26 or catch a wild Dugtrio. Its stats will always be high enough to outspeed and one-shot Raichu. The conclusion for Surge is easy. Dugtrio is obviously the best Pokemon to solo sweep in both versions, but you can also safely do it with a 51 speed Diglett in red and blue. Whenever I see a grass-type gym, my first instinct is to use fire types, but they kinda suck in these games. I was initially looking at flying and psychic types, but each one had their share of problems. Erika's lead Pokemon in both versions can trap my Pokemon immediately. On top of that, very few newly caught Pokemon can outspeed her Victory Bell in red and blue. A newly caught Pharaoh near Celadon works really well here. It outspeeds and 2-hit KOs all of of Erika's Pokemon in both versions, but it can lose because of the inaccurate fly. Another option is the level 27 Kadabra in yellow. It's very strong with Psychic, but if Tangela hits Constrict, chances are Kadabra won't outspeed her next two Pokemon, resulting in needing to tank hits, which Kadabra isn't very good at. I decided to delay the 4th gym slightly and progress through the story, allowing access to the Pokeflute and a level 30 or 33 Venomoth, which completely dominates Erika's team in all 3 versions. It 3-hit KOs all of Erika's Pokemon, so getting trapped or slapped is possible, but it heals back all the damage with Leech Life. Teaching Psychic is also an option, which deals more damage. While the fly spam is a very viable method of sweeping Erika, its 90% accuracy cost me the win in a few attempts. This made Venomoth win as the best solo sweeper for Erika across all 3 versions. The difference between Koga's teams in red, blue and yellow in terms of difficulty are night and day. For his red and blue team, my first instinct was to use a newly caught Dugtrio, which can successfully sweep Koga with Dig. However, there's a chance that Weezing uses self-destruct after hitting the first Dig. It is Koga's final Pokemon, so we technically win the battle, even if it takes out the Dugtrio. But I consider this a gray area in my restrictions, so I went to look for a Pokemon that can survive the fight. Koga just does not know what to do against a hunter. It uses X items, tries to inflict poison, and even uses self-destruct on it. Coughing Smokescreen can slow down the fight, but there's basically zero chance that hunter loses with Psychic and Nightshade. Koga in yellow looks like a downgrade, but for the first time I hit a wall. It's actually impossible to consistently solo sweep him. The level jump after defeating Erika is a lot bigger compared to red and blue, which plays an important part in the damage calculation. On top of that, his Venonats can afflict sleep for up to 7 turns, making my Pokemon easy prey. And Venomoth is fast enough to outspeed most newly caught Pokemon while threatening to one-shot with a critical Psychic. I tested multiple Pokemon without intentional grinding, but there's not a single one that could do it. However, I was curious which Pokemon would need the least amount of grinding. The 2 best options are Kadabra and Dodrio, caught at level 27 and 29 respectively, but they need to gain around 10 levels to perform a guaranteed solo sweep. After obtaining the Pokeflute, a ton of trainers become available to fight, and most of them carry Pokemon that can't survive one hit from Kadabra's and Dodrio's strongest move. If you just progress through the routes, gym trainers and story, they'll eventually become strong enough to sweep Koga. Their power is about equal, but the most important benchmark is outspeeding Venomoth, which Kadabra does a little earlier than Dodrio. By the time they reach the speed threshold, they're both strong enough to one-shot all Venonat, 2-hit KO Venomoth, and survive a critical hit. Of course, if we're counting trait evolutions, Alakazam is a better candidate for this fight than Kadabra. Its higher stats let it solo sweep even earlier. Sadly, under my restrictions, Koga in yellow is the first gym leader that cannot be beaten by a Pokemon without relying on grinding, stat XP, or vitamins. Sabrina uses the infamously overpowered Psychic types. The best Pokemon to use for her in red and blue is Slowbro. With Koga's badge, we can now increase our speed when boosting stats. For this fight, Slowbro uses Withdraw 6 times to boost its stats. Then you have the choice between copying Recover from Kadabra with Mimic or teaching it Rest for some healing. Kadabra can delay your setup with Disable, but it won't be able to KO Slowbro if healed in time. After setting up Withdraw 6 times, KO every Psychic type with a strong physical move and Venomoth with Psychic. Sabrina's team in yellow is an absolute nightmare if you're aiming for guaranteed solo sweeps. Her Abra and Kadabra use accuracy lowering moves, and her Alakazam can one-shot nearly every newly caught Pokemon in the game with a critical hit Psychic. I looked for a way to one-shot and outspeed all 3 of Sabrina's Pokemon without needing stat boosts, but every option required lots of grinding. Suddenly it hit me. My restrictions mention not relying on RNG, but her Abra only knows Flash. I can let it lower my accuracy 6 times to benefit from the badge boost glitch, and teach my Pokemon Swift to bypass accuracy checks. If I then use Double Team to raise my evasion and my other stats even further, I won't be fishing for misses from the opponent, because it can't attack me. And which Pokemon is the best candidate for this strategy? Eradicate. Here's how you always win against Sabrina in yellow. Step 1. Catch a level 36 to 46 Eradicate in Cinnabar Mansion. Step 2. Teach it Double Team and Swift. Step 3. Let Abra land 6 flashes before you proceed to Step 4, using 6 Double Teams to further boost Eradicate. Then finally, sweep with Swift. I honestly didn't expect this to be my answer for yellow Sabrina. I also want to quickly mention that the legendary birds are available to us now. Zapdos, for example, is extremely strong against Sabrina. Drill Peck one-shots most of her Pokemon due to their low defense stats. But Slowbro and Eradicate are definitely the best non-legendary options in their respective games. They require no grinding and are very easy to find. Blaine is another gym leader where version differences matter a lot. His team in red and blue lacks good movesets, with the only threats being Rapidash due to its high speed and Fire Spin, and Arcanine with Fire Blast and Takedown. Blaine's gym is also surrounded by water-type Pokemon, many of which can easily solo his team in red and blue. Some are more optimal than others. Here is my top 5 options, from worst to best. Kingler with Crabhammer, the newly revived Omanyte, Starmie with the Harden and Recover combo, and of course a legendary bird, Zapdos. The number 1 spot goes to Tentacruel. Tentacool can be caught at level 40 by simply surfing near Cinnabar Island. Level up once and you have a Tentacruel. It's in this awkward stat range where low DVs can result in missing a one-hit KO or being knocked out by a critical hit. There isn't an exact HP or defense benchmark here, because both stats add to Tentacruel's physical bulk. Low DVs can always be fixed by defeating the gym trainers for some extra levels and stat XP. To solo sweep, I simply set up 3 barriers for some badge boosts and spam Surf to victory. Now, Blaine in yellow blows almost every previously mentioned Pokemon out of the water. His Rapidash and Arcanine still have the same tricks up their sleeve, but his new lead Pokemon, Ninetales, is an immediate threat with Confuse Ray and Flamethrower. Starmie, Nidoking, Arcanine, and Poliwhirl are very good candidates, if they don't hit themselves. I figured out that Substitute is the ideal solution to avoid confusion, but it's a very expensive TM at the game corner. Of course, I played through these games normally for this video, catching at least 1 full box of Pokemon, battling most optional trainers, and selling obsolete items. I actually ended up having more than enough money for buying the TM. I know not every player will have the same amount of money at this point in the game, but it's this versus grinding 10 levels. With Substitute, Tentacruel becomes the best solo sweeper for Blaine again. A newly caught one with max speed DVs can outspeed his Ninetales. Otherwise, some rare Candies or defeating the gym trainers will get it up to speed. Ninetales always needs 2 hits to break Tentacruel's sub, giving it at least 1 free turn to set up each time. A critical Flamethrower will break it instantly, but rest takes care of any worst case scenarios. The sub needs to be active when facing Arcanine, so I set up 2 barriers to avoid the sub breaking from Rapidash's takedown. From then on, it's Surf Spam and refreshing Substitute in case it breaks. So, as you can see, Tentacruel ends up being the safest and quickest solo sweeper for all versions. Giovanni's ground-type Pokemon are also very weak to the water-type Pokemon I used earlier. While Blaine's Pokemon actually have decent to high special and speed, Giovanni's Pokemon are slower and physically bulkier. This lowers the special stat requirement tremendously. In Red and Blue, his lead Pokemon is a weak Rhyhorn, which gives a lot of space to set up. It knows Horn Drill, but as long as our Pokemon is faster, it can't land the attack. Some of the Pokemon used against Blaine can sweep Giovanni. As long as the water-type Pokemon outspeeds Rhyhorn, has a decent special stat, a setup move, and no Surf, it's guaranteed to win. The first place is very close between Starmie and Tentacruel, but the latter wins because Starmie levels up during the fight, losing the badge boosts. Giovanni in yellow is a completely different beast. He now leads with a 133 speed duck trio that knows Sand Attack, Earthquake, Dig, and Fissure. Accuracy drops, huge damage, and even a potential one-hit KO. Starmie can only consistently sweep Giovanni if it outspeeds duck trio. Getting hit by Sand Attack instantly makes it too RNG reliant. At least 120 speed is required to outspeed. That means being around level 45, which can be reached by feeding rare candies. Since Starmie is the fastest water type available, there simply isn't a better non-legendary alternative. The fight goes as follows. Starmie makes use of Substitute and sets up 6 hardens while keeping the sub up and healing in between with Recover. It needs the extra power to one-shot Persian and both Nidos. Once Starmie is boosted, it cleanly sweeps with Surf. Articuno is also a great alternative to avoid spending money on his substitute TM, but it needs that 120 speed to prevent getting its accuracy lowered. I did this by giving it 5 rare candies and enough carbos to hit the required speed. The final gym leader is down. In red and blue, Giovanni gives plenty of space to set up, making several water types excellent low-effort options. With Tentacruel taking the crown, Giovanni's yellow counterpart has a dangerous lead, so speed mattered a lot more. Starmie requires the substitute TM, but skips the grinding by eating the remaining rare candies. And that's every gym leader solo swept in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Most of them can be beaten by Pokemon straight out of the wild with the help of rare candies in a few cases. The yellow versions of Brock, Koga, Blaine, and Giovanni are the main exceptions. Brock simply because it's the start of the journey. On the other end of the game, Koga is straight up impossible to solo sweep without relying on luck or heavy grinding. Blaine and Giovanni have lead Pokemon that force RNG with confusion and accuracy drops. Spending money on the substitute TM removes those elements and allows non-legendary Pokemon to perform consistent solo sweeps without excessive grinding. Making this video gave me more insight into these games. They would pair well with my do not use videos. If you want more of this, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments which solo sweep surprised you the most. As always, have a good one.